how to overcome the spiritual attack of unhappiness is what we are going to discuss for a few minutes in this informal video. So if this topic sounds interesting and you want to learn a little bit more how to overcome unhappiness in your personal life and in your spiritual life, stick with me as we talk about this for a moment. One of the first things that we have to understand is that we're living in a chaotic world. In other words, there are many things that are surrounding us and bombarding us daily that can cause us to fall spiritually, physically, can cause negative emotions, and all these things start to pile up in our life, and we become unhappy. Living in this chaotic world requires that we have spiritual armor, and that is what is going to help us to overcome unhappiness. I realize that detrimental things can happen to us: losing a loved one, going through divorce, going through a breakup from a significant other that we were with for quite some time, things that are happening in our travels, things that are happening in our family. And we can see that the list can begin to pile. And if we are not ready for the spiritual attack of unhappiness, we will have, again, a downfall. Do you remember that parable in the ancient writing that said, "The thief comes to steal, to kill, and to destroy"? That's its mission. But here is the opposite of that first phrase: "But I have come to give you life," but not just life, life more abundantly. When you do a deeper study of the word life and abundance, it makes reference, of course, to being alive, but being alive in an overwhelming and abundant way. In other words, I like to think about light, how light is bright and it can consume darkness. And you can notice light in a pitch black place, and as soon as you spot that little light coming through, shining through, it is automatically recognized. So when I think about that old parable that is talking about the negative forces out there that are trying to weigh on our spirit and our mind and trying to get us to fall, I think about all the problems that come our way. And we have a choice. We have a choice to be that light that shines through us and upon us, and to change the narrative around the unhappiness. So how do we overcome unhappiness? How do we get out of that state of mind that we are perpetuating negativity and woe is me and victim mentality? And I believe that you get the picture here. How do we overcome this? We start to change our thoughts, our narrative. And I believe that you know what I'm making reference to: the ego. What is the ego? The ego is separate from the mind. The ego, I like to say, sometimes has its own mind, and not to be confusing here, but the mind is just a tool that we use every day for making decisions. And so when we separate that narrative, that ego that is telling us that you're never going to recover from this financial loss, you're never going to get in a relationship again because of all, the bad relationships you had, all the failed relationships you had. And it starts to speak to you every day and starts to bombard your mind. And then you have no sense of self any longer, and you begin to let the ego take you and lead you. But instead, what we need to do in the spiritual sense is change the narrative. And then you will begin to see that when we focus on presence and when we focus on gratitude, that is giving thanks every day for what we have. Every day be thankful, because there are less fortunate people. Recently, if you have noticed, there has been a sweep of tornadoes going across the United States. And what about them that no longer have existence here upon this earth? What about those that lost children and loved ones and the suffering that is being caused there? And I know that is a separate discussion. You know, unhappiness can certainly be created from loss and suffering, but we have the strong spiritual willpower to overcome anything that comes our way, but it is up to us. And what I also want to note here is that when we become irritated and frustrated every day, and the joy is beginning to be emptied out of us, then we start to become this person psychologically that we now begin to already expect unhappiness. We already, again, expect to be irritated and frustrated, and it becomes a personality. And when it becomes a personality through patterns and time, you think that that's who you are. But that is not us. What we are is consciousness. Consciousness does not change. It is the light that shines through us. And that's why the old saying says, I have come to give you life, consciousness. And life is light, and light is alive. It has vibrance. And this is what we can do during times of challenge. This is what we can do during times of trials and tribulations. We can take back our joy, and we can learn how to live a spiritually balanced life. This is how we overcome unhappiness. But I know that sometimes it's not as easy, because when things enter into the mind, it triggers the body what to do. And the body and the mind, of course, can work together, and that can lead us astray. And this is why we need the spiritual armor once again. And we need to guard our hearts every day with goodness and with wisdom. And then we will feel confident that anything that comes our way, finances, relationships, health news that we may have not wanted to hear, all these things that are trying to rob our joy and to kill and destroy us spiritually, we have the ability to overcome unhappiness. I hope this informal spiritual discussion has been of value to you. If you're gaining value from videos like this, hit the like button, subscribe to Survivorneers. We are a spiritual channel that loves to discuss how to overcome things in our life, and especially how to go through the spiritual journey of transformation. So the next time that negative force or that thing that wants to enter into our minds and overtake the body, remember that we are consciousness, and we can get through these obstacles and get through these trials and tribulations with demonstrating goodness, poise, joy, and a good attitude.